I was 13 when it happened. It was a rainy Saturday afternoon, the kind where the house feels just a little too quiet, a little too still. I was home with 3 of my closest friends, and we were bored in that way only teenage girls can be, restless, curious, and just reckless enough to think we could contact the dead. We decided to do the Ouija board in my mother's bedroom. Looking back, that was probably the worst place we could have chosen. The house we lived in was this narrow, 3-story terraced home in South Wales. Old, creaky, and cold, no matter the season. Each room had these antique fireplaces with blackened chimneys that had long been sealed up, but still gave off a heavy, suffocating feeling. Like the walls remembered something. There was also this statue in the churchyard next door, right across from our place. An old stone figure of a man holding out a book, worn and weathered by time. From the angle of the yard, it looked like the book pointed directly toward my mother's bedroom window. We always joked about it, but not in a funny way. More like nervous laughter. It gave us the creeps. We made a makeshift board out of paper and used a drinking glass for the planchette. Candles flickered on the dressing table, and the 4 of us circled around, fingers lightly touching the glass. I remember my heart pounding, a weird mix of excitement and anxiety settling into my chest. Barely 30 seconds in, the glass moved. Just once. It slid, slowly but deliberately, to spell out one word. Stop. We all stared at each other in stunned silence, before breaking into awkward giggles. No one said it out loud, but I think we were all scared. We ignored the message and placed our fingers back on the glass. That's when it happened. The girl sitting directly across from me, Emma, screamed. A real scream, high-pitched and panicked. In the same motion, she flipped the glass off the table and bolted from the room. Just ran. The other 2 followed her, crashing into each other as they scrambled down the narrow staircase. I froze for a second, heart in my throat before I followed them. My mom came running out of the living room as we spilled out the front door. I remember the confusion on her face, her glass of wine still in her hand. Outside, Emma was standing near the edge of the pavement, pale as chalk, breathing hard. She looked at me and said, "There was a man at the end of the bed." Her voice cracked when she said it. I asked her what she meant, and she said he was just there, standing at the foot of my mom's bed, wearing a long coat and a trilby hat. His face was blank, or maybe she didn't look long enough to see it. She just ran. No one wanted to talk about it after that. The girls' parents picked them up soon after, and we all silently agreed never to mention it again. For years, I filed it away as one of those weird childhood moments you don't fully understand. But then, when I was 25, something changed. My mom's drinking had gotten worse. She was in and out of bed most days, battling demons I couldn't see. Sometimes she'd talk about spiders crawling up the walls, or shadows moving in the corners of the room. We chalked it up to withdrawal and the effects of alcohol, hallucinations basically. But one night, she was sober, properly sober, and she told me something I'll never forget. She said, "I keep seeing him." I asked her who. She looked at me with this emptiness in her eyes and said, "Dad, at the bottom of my bed, in the coat and hat we buried him in." That stopped me cold. I never told her what happened that day when I was 13. I never told her what Emma saw. But I knew. And somehow, I think she did too. Back in 2016, during my second year of college, my roommate and I got it into our heads to try a Ouija board. We were both curious, maybe a little bored, and figured it would be something spooky but harmless. Honestly, we weren't expecting anything to happen. We bought the board online. Cheap cardboard and plastic. Nothing fancy. That night, we set it up in our dorm room. Lights off, a couple of candles lit, just enough glow to make out the letters. We sat on the floor between our beds, knees brushing the edge of the board, fingers gently resting on the planchette. At first, it was all giggles and sarcasm. But then the planchette started to move. Slowly at first, then with more intention. We both swore we weren't pushing it, and the responses felt cohesive. like we were talking to someone. The spirit said it was a child, 7 years old. It never gave a full name, just initials, and kept spelling out simple, kind words like hello, friend, and safe. It never felt threatening. In fact, there was this weird, calm atmosphere in the room, like everything had gone still. We talked for maybe 20 minutes. Then we said goodbye properly, moved the planchette over it, and blew out the candles. We both agreed it was strange, but kind of sweet. No creepy vibes, nothing off. But then the next night happened. My roommate was in the shower, and I was lying in bed, reading on my phone, with the room light off. The only sound was the water running and the occasional creak from the building settling. Out of nowhere, the TV turned on. Not just the screen lighting up, full volume, flickering to life like someone had hit the remote. I jumped, of course, but tried to rationalize it. Faulty wiring, a glitchy remote. Dorm tech was old and unpredictable. I turned it off and didn't think much of it. A few minutes later, my roommate stepped out of the bathroom with this wide-eyed look on her face. She asked me, "Did you knock on the door just now?" I told her no. She stared at me and said, "I swear I heard you knock and say my name." I even answered. There was no way I could have knocked, spoken, and gotten back into bed before she opened the door. Not without her hearing me move, at least. We just stared at each other for a moment, neither of us saying it, but both of us feeling it. Something wasn't right. We tried to brush it off, got into bed, and pretended everything was fine. But around 2 a.m., we both sat up at the same time, woken by this loud crashing sound from across the room. We scrambled for the light, and when it came on, we saw my stapler. It had been on my desk earlier that night. Now it was lying halfway across the room like it had been thrown. Neither of us said much after that. We didn't sleep well. The next day, we packed the Ouija board up, took it out to the dumpster behind the student center, and tossed it. We didn't do any sort of ritual or goodbye that time. We just wanted it gone. Nothing else happened after that. No noises, no movement, no more weird feelings in the room. But to this day, I still think about that first night. If the spirit was really a child, I don't know. Maybe it just wanted to play. Or maybe it wasn't a child at all. I was probably around 17 or 18 at the time, still living at home, still messing around with things I didn't fully understand. It was one of those late nights where the house is too quiet and your thoughts get a little restless. I'd been reading online about Ouija boards, not the stuff in movies, but personal stories people posted. Curiosity got the better of me. I didn't even own a real board. I made one from notebook paper, sketched out the letters, yes, no, and goodbye. Used a shot glass as the planchette. I set it up in my room, lights off except for a single desk lamp with this dull yellow glow. There was no ceremony, no chanting, just me being a bored teenager with nothing better to do. I asked the usual dumb questions at first. Is anyone here? What's your name? Nothing happened. Then I asked, is there anything I need to know? The glass twitched, moved a little. I figured it was just my fingers, but then it started to glide. Slow, deliberate. It spelled out, "Watch out for a dog." I sat there staring at the message. Watch out for a dog. It repeated the phrase again. And again, same words. Watch out for a dog. I remember feeling weird about it, not scared exactly, but unsettled. It made no sense. We had a dog, yeah, a big German shepherd named Sasha, but she was fine, strong, healthy. Nothing about it added up. Eventually, I said goodbye, packed everything away, and moved on. Chalked it up to random nonsense or my own subconscious messing with me. About 2 weeks later, Sasha got sick. It happened fast. One morning, she refused her food. By the afternoon, she was vomiting and couldn't stand without wobbling. We rushed her to the emergency vet. They found traces of ground glass in her stomach, mixed in with hamburger meat. Someone had thrown it into our backyard. That hit hard. See, Sasha wasn't just a pet. She was a retired police dog K9 unit. My dad had worked with her before he left the force. She was trained, loyal, protective. Apparently, someone who'd been arrested during her active duty years had recognized her or remembered the address. We never got the full story, but the vet said if we hadn't brought her in when we did, she would have died. She made a full recovery. Tough as hell, that dog. But I never forgot the message from that night. Watch out for a dog. And to this day, I can't explain how or why I got that warning. Maybe it was just a freak coincidence. Maybe not. All I know is I haven't touched a Ouija board since. I've never been the type to believe in ghosts. Growing up, I was always the one rolling my eyes when someone talked about hauntings or spirits. But something happened this past Samhain that I still think about more than I'd like to admit. A few of my close friends and I decided to do something different that night. Nothing crazy, just something meaningful. We ended up at this old cemetery just outside of town, the kind you barely notice during the day, but feels entirely different once the sun goes down. We brought a few of the younger kids with us, teen siblings, cousins, just to let them be part of something a little spooky, a little fun. Someone brought a Ouija board. I didn't even know they still sold those. I wasn't really into it. I stood back at first, arms crossed, watching the others set it up on a flat, dry patch of stone near a tree. But eventually, they convinced me to sit down. The air was cold, sharp, quiet, and the only light came from a few flashlights and the pale moon above the treetops. I figured, why not? Worst case scenario, it'd be a harmless memory. At first, nothing happened. Just laughter, dumb questions, fingers twitching awkwardly on the planchette. Then, the glass started to move. Slow, deliberate. It spelled out a year, 1894. That caught my attention. One of the teens, my friend's niece actually, had been walking around nearby, just exploring the older stones. She called over, said, "Guys, come here." We followed her a few rows over. There it was, a gravestone, worn and leaning slightly, but the date was still visible. Died, 1894. The name wasn't legible from a distance, but when we got closer, we saw the full inscription, and it matched what the board had started to spell before we stopped. It felt quiet after that, not like before. Like the mood had shifted. The kids started asking more questions, stuff I wouldn't have even thought to ask. Are you okay? Did you die alone? Are you still here? They weren't scared, just curious. And something about that made the whole moment feel more real, like we weren't just playing around anymore. Before we left, we went back to the cars and grabbed the flowers we'd brought. 24 roses. We hadn't planned to leave them at any one place in particular, but after everything that happened, we spread them out across the graves, especially that one. It didn't feel like a ghost story. It felt like we helped someone be remembered, just for a little while. Maybe that's all it was. Or maybe it was more. I'm still a skeptic, but now a quieter one. They always say not to do it alone, right? Yeah, well, I did. Not because I thought I was braver than everyone else or anything, but because I wanted to make sure, really sure, that no one else was moving the coin. I didn't have a real Ouija board, so I made one with notebook paper and used a coin instead of a planchette. Just me, alone in my room, late at night, sitting on the floor with the lights off except for my desk lamp. At first, it felt stupid. Just me and some scribbled letters. I almost quit 5 minutes in. But then the coin moved. I asked if anyone was there, and it slid, slowly, toward yes. My fingers tensed. I hadn't pushed it. At least, I didn't think I had. The movement was small but deliberate. I asked, "Are you male or female?" It spelled M-A-L-E. I tried to keep it casual, but my heart was already beating faster. I asked how he died. C-A-R. That's all it said at first. Car. Then I asked, "Why are you still here?" The coin moved again, faster this time, and started spelling out what looked like a license plate number. Then a woman's name, then a phone number, all local. I remember just sitting there, staring at the page, thinking, this is way too detailed, too ordinary to be made up. But why would it be real? And then the coin actually pulled under my fingers. I swear I felt heat through the metal, like it had been sitting in the sun. Until then, I kept telling myself maybe it was my subconscious moving it. But that moment, it felt like something was pushing back. I asked where he was now. The coin began spelling INFIER. Then it shot straight to the no printed on the page. Just stopped there. No goodbye, no more words. Like it was cutting the word short. Infierno is hell in Spanish. The coin used no to finish the word instead of spelling it out. That detail messed with me more than anything. I tried to say goodbye, but the coin didn't move again. I asked a few more questions. Nothing. Just dead still. Eventually, I gave up, folded the paper, tucked the coin inside, and slid it between the pages of an old book on my shelf. Didn't throw it out, didn't burn it. I didn't know what you were supposed to do, and for some reason, throwing it away felt wrong. I kept it for years, and yeah, I called the number. My hands were shaking when I dialed. A woman answered. I asked for the name the board had given me, supposedly the wife. She paused, said she wasn't there. So I asked, but does she live there? That's when her tone changed. Who is this? Why are you calling? I panicked and hung up. I mean, here, people are super suspicious about giving out personal info over the phone, so I didn't expect much, but still, it made the whole thing feel realer. I never did it again. Nothing weird ever happened afterward. No strange noises, no nightmares, no signs. But I've still got that paper and coin, tucked in the back of that same old book. Don't know why I've kept it this long. Maybe I just don't want to find out what happens if I get rid of it.